here, this ladder, go up there. We check fuel and oil. It's raining and it's wet, so we're going to skip that for right now.
Okay.
But fuel is 2 tanks. You can see them right there. The forward tank is the main. The aft is the aux. Oil tank is up there on top of the cowling. Each oil tank holds 29 gallons, and you check it by looking in there and seeing that it's almost full.
And the fuel tank, those are those little
Yep.
there. Okay.
Yep.
And is there like
we have a stick.
There's a stick. Okay.
Yep.
Is there a stick kind of built into that
Nope.
or something, or you bring the stick?
Sticks up in the cockpit.
Okay. Okay. So left engine oil and fuel quantity and oil and fuel doors. So then cargo doors.
All right, cargo doors here. This one closes this way. This one's got a latch at the bottom and one at the top. Both of them need to be horizontal so this door doesn't blow open. If you fail to latch this one in flight, it's not going to do much. But if you fail to latch this and it blew open, it's going to make some noise. Yep, exactly. All right, what's next?
Okay, left aft fuselage.
All right, we have one. This is the aft fuselage. You're just looking for general condition like you would on a 172. Make sure it hasn't been hit or damaged or anything like that. These things are the flare holes back in the early days when the DC-3 was flying along and had trouble. They'd send the co-pilot back there to drop flares out of the airplane to let everybody know that they were having trouble. What's next?
Left aft, or left horizontal stabilizer.
All right, we have one of those. That's this black thing. It used to have boots on it. This is just a painted surface now for looks. Boots have been deactivated so we don't fly it in the ice.
Left elevator cotter pin.
All right, the pins are in here. They're castellated nut with a pin there, and also a castellated nut with a pin there.
Can we get a close up of that, Rachel, like that kind of stuff, like when we point at that? So it's right there. Yeah. And that, yeah. Okay, cool. Left elevator ground strap.
All right, that's this right here. We don't really need ground straps because the airplane doesn't fly fast enough to generate any static electricity, so the ground strap thing is not really useful. All right.
Okay, so left elevator movement.
All right, so pick it up inboard, and then you just want to make sure it goes full travel and it doesn't make any creaking noises. Like that.
Yeah.
No, that's normal, but if it was going...
You said inboard, like on this side, or you mean
No,
just
like
on
right
the,
here.
like,
Just pick it up right
I
here.
mean, like, as opposed to here? Or-
Yeah. This is about as far outboard as you should pick it up right there.
Why is that?
Well, because you're putting strain on this trailing edge former that goes around it, and then you just want to pick it up with some meat on it here.
Okay. How often do you have to, like, refabric these, or?
Every 5-6 years, something like that. So notice you keep on going on your list there, but you set your elevator trim to 0 in the cockpit.
Yeah, so it's nice.
So it's 0'd here.
And so that's the only control surface that has two trim tabs, or is yeah.
Yeah.
So is that one is the kind of actuator on the bottom?
It's
So it's just the
it's an identical rudder. It just elevator. It just flips over. It's upside down.
Okay.
So the actuating rod on this one's on the bottom side.
okay. Left elevator movement. Okay, static wick.
We don't have any.
That's okay.
I got one left over here, but they're not required on the airplane. I've taken most of them off.
Trim rod. So I'm guessing that's
the
this.
trim rod right there.
Okay.
When you move that wheel in the cockpit, you're moving this rod fore and aft, and it's changing this elevator trim right here.
Okay, trim rod cotter pins. There are 3. Let's see what I got.
Well, there's one here, and one here.
Okay, I see. Trim setting we just checked is at 0, and control lock we undid the seatbelt.
Yeah, some airplanes, in fact Roberts, will have a control lock that they put in here.
Sure.
I don't ever lock my elevators on this thing.
Okay, rudder control lock. We're just going to leave that for
We're
now.
going to leave it for now, but we would remove that if we were actually going flying.
Okay, ground strap.
It's hard to see, but it's up in here, up in this hinge point right there. If you step back just a little bit, you can see the
I see it
rudder
right
ground
there, yeah.
strap.
Okay. Cotter pins.
Can't check those from the ground, but they're in there. They're the same castellated nut and pin to hold that rudder in position on the hinge.
Okay, trim rod.
There's your trim rod, and it's got a castellated nut and a key on it.
Cotter pins. 3, I see 2, and there's probably a third one up there on
Yep.
the top.
Third one's there.
Static wicks, we have one.
And your rudder trim is 0 because we zeroed it in the cockpit.
I guess does this count as the static?
That's a static wick. Yep.
Stinger condition.
This is the Stinger right here. It was added after the fact on the early Douglas products, and it doesn't really do very much function-wise, but you can see that the clearance between here and here is not much, so that this unit is called the Stinger. If it was bent or got hit,
Sure.
it could get into the elevator and prevent elevator movement. So you want to make sure that the elevator clearance is there between the Stinger and
So I guess this would be the Stinger static wick, not a rudder static wick.
correct.
But
We
could
used to
count
have
it
we used to have a static wick here and here and several on the elevator.
Okay, Stinger lights.
Right there.
Those look good.
That's your nav light. The top one is the only one that works.
Okay. Right elevator control lock.
If you had a control lock in it, it would be right there as well.
Sure. Trim setting. Looks like that's 0.
Pretty close to 0. And there's your rod right
There's
there.
the rod, cotter pin.
Yep. There's a cotter pin.
Cotter pin.
There's a cotter pin there.
Okay, trim rod, trim setting, cotter pin, yeah, static wicks. Movement we just looked at. Ground strap. Got one there. Oops, sorry. And, got one there. Cotter pins. There's one there. One there. Okay, right horizontal stabilizer.
That'd be this big sofa thing. And just walk around it. It's a very durable airplane. Just make sure there's nothing loose or obvious.
Okay, tail wheel area.
You're just looking at the tail wheel, just make sure there's nothing obvious here. Tire's got inflation, and then this is the strut right here. This is a air oleo strut, so it's got fluid and air in here. And you want to be able to see about that much liner.
Okay.
And tire looks inflated. You can always check tire pressure by going like this. That one's got 52 pounds.
Sounds good. Okay, tail wheel condition looks good. Right aft fuselage.
Same thing, just looking for condition, making sure nothing got hit.
Vertical stabilizer.
Is your vertical stabilizer with your GoPro camera mount?
Looks secure.
Looks secure.
Right engine oil quantity.
We get our ladder, go up there again.
Sure.
Aux tank, main tank, and oil tank. How many gallons of oil?
I don't know.
29
29
gallons.
And
yep.
what do you want as kind of a minimum?
29.
29. Or what does it hold?
Well, it'll take like 32,
Okay.
and then the low oil quantity light will start to come on down there around
29.
25,
Okay.
26, something like that, if it goes just a little bit low.
So you want
But-
29
Well,
ish.
somewhere around there, yeah.
Okay. Definitely not less than about like 25, and then you have to
Yeah.
shut down again when you get the oil in.
Yep, yep.
Okay, so we got that. By the way, so do the fuel tanks go out through like the entire wing,
No,
or
no,
it's just
I'll show you the fuel tanks when we go around the front side with there.
okay. It's just this like inboard portion of the wing?
Oh, it's all definitely inboard
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Okay. How many gallons does it hold?
822 total, so
Okay, so
basically
it's about
200 apiece.
200 apiece, yeah.
A little over 200 apiece.
822.
822.
Okay, right flap condition.
So in the pre-flight, we put our flaps down. We just want to take a look here. These are your flap rods that actuate the flaps. This bar travels left and right and pushes these down, which moves the flaps down. But just want to do a general condition check, look for birds' nests or anything abnormal up in here. Make sure all those rods are straight. Nothing bent in there. See how they're all safetied and nice and
Right.
straight.
Okay, right aileron condition.
Here's one thing we'll look at in the cockpit. Here's how that's off just slightly. It's got a little bit of play in there, but I would say probably that might have trimmed up just a tad.
Okay.
And then you're just looking at the fabric and condition. If it was not raining out here, we'd pull the locks off and move this aileron up and down.
Sure. Do you want me to get a shot just kind of like, you know, looking along the aileron? Maybe we can come down here and like move above or below. Yeah, just, I don't put into it. But I'd say just, yeah, go straight, just kind of like this, and then just up and down. Yeah, perfect. And you do have the auto. Right aileron trim setting, right static wicks, right wingtip condition.
Just follow along out here and just look at general condition. This is your right wingtip. It starts right here, and the wingtip was added to increase the aileron length. The aileron is now 24 feet, and on the DC2 it was shorter, but when they increased the horsepower, they had to have more wing and more aileron, so they had to put the wingtip out here to support more aileron.
Sure. Is it kind of bent just a little bit
Yeah,
on the tip there?
it is. That's our speed tip.
Okay, nice wingtip lights. We saw those too. Right wing leading edge.
Yeah, just general condition. Make sure there's nothing obvious on there.
Do you know, does Robert's plane have working boots?
I don't think it does.
Okay. Right wing landing light.
I don't think any of those airplanes have working boots.
Really?
Very few.
Why is that? Are they just
Nope.
particularly hard to maintain or something?
Well, they're hard to maintain, but nobody's going to fly these in the ice either.
Unless you're flying across the North Atlantic in May.
Yeah, you'll be all right in May.
Well, it doesn't get too warm up there until about
Yeah, it's true.
mid-July.
I'm glad I'm not going.
Right
I'm glad I'm not going.
Okay, right wing cowl flap. Right engine cowl flaps.
Alright, so there's your cowl flaps. You can see how they're flopped open right now, because
Yeah.
in the cockpit we went to open it off, and that drill goes open, so you can see up in there. That rod that goes around, that's your flap actuating rod that moves those cowl flaps.
Like a shot like that, you'll probably have to up the EV comp so that you know it exposes for the dark stuff in there, and even if you blow out a little of the sky, that's fine. Okay, I'm sorry. Can you say this? So the rod, and just kind of looking at that, and
Yeah, over here, this little unit right here is the cowl flap actuator, and that receives hydraulic pressure from this line or this line. One side of it drives that piston this way, and one drives it this way, and that's what it's all set up on this cam system, so it slams those things open or closed based on this actuator, and that actuator operates based on getting pressure from this line or this line.
okay. So right engine hydraulic lines.
Those are your hydraulic lines right there. Those two. What's your hydraulic system pressure normally? 950. That's right. You were going to say that, weren't you?
I was going to say 1,000.
Oh, 1,000. Yeah.
Okay. Right engine rear cylinders.
Just take a look in here. These are your rear cylinders in here, and you just want to make sure that you don't see anything obvious. Tools, rags.
How many cylinders are there?
I have no idea. Let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. There's 14.
So it's like 7 and 7?
2 rows of 7.
Okay, right engine wheel well.
Alright, so your general condition here. This gear folds forward, this brakes right here, and the wheel actually goes up in there, so the bottom of the wheel in flight rides right here, and the whole wheel is up in here. This is your retract actuator, and the gear is pulled up from this truss. Your gear unlock right there, and that truss breaks over center right here, and the whole tire goes up in there.
Okay. Right main landing gear downlock mechanisms.
The downlock mechanism is this right here, and that's when you put the gear down. This truss goes against this forward spar. That's your forward wing spar, and there's 3 spars. And then the downlock mechanism is right in here, and it spade drops into place. That's what holds the gear in place, even if you lost pressure. So if you look at it from the side, you can see that the gear is kind of at this angle. So the more weight on it is pushing this way. So
Hold up, sort of.
well, that means with weight on the wheels, you'd have to get this over center to collapse it.
Okay.
Is what you would have to do.
So where is kind of the spade that locks it down?
The spade is very difficult to see, but here, come around this side and I'll show you. Put my pen tip on it. Alright, see where the tip of my pen is right here?
Yeah.
There's a triangle piece.
Okay.
You see that right there?
Yeah.
And that, if you look on this side, it's got one over here as well. It's all one piece
Okay.
right there.
Okay.
And that wedge piece that's got the pointy tip on it drops into that position, and it's locked. That portion of this thing cannot come unlocked until that wedge, which we call the spade, is pulled back up out of there again.
Okay. And so that's like kind of through up in here,
Yep.
like that stuff.
That's the micro switch. Those cables up there are the cable system that pulls that wedge up out of there.
Okay.
And then the gear can move because it's sending hydraulic pressure to this actuator. Once the spade's out of the way, then hydraulic pressure can pull this thing forward.
Okay. Is that the oil tank up
That's
there?
the oil tank, yeah.
Okay.
That's the feather pump motor, pre-oiler, oil tank, and firewall shutoff for the oil right there. So
Okay.
you pull that firewall shutoff, you're closing off the oil at the bottom part of the tank where it gets its oil supply from.
Okay. Right carburetor fuel strainer.
That's right here. I'm gonna do it so you don't get fuel all over you because bless you. Wind is blowing this way.
Which way? That way?
Yeah, it's
Or
kind of blowing this way, but
Well, here, let me come over to this side. then.
okay. All right.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah. So all we're gonna do is push this thing and let a little bit of fuel run out.
Sure.
This is your carburetor strainer. That's the lowest point before it goes up to the carburetor. So if there's any water contaminants, it should get trapped right there. So
Okay.
we normally just dump a little bit out and let it go.
Inspection lights.
Inspection lights have been removed, but in the old days, when they sent the co-pilot out here to pre-flight this, there was a light right there. They'd turn on power in the cockpit, and they'd go out and pre-flight the airplane, and there was a big light that shined up in here so they could
So at like night and
at
stuff.
night
you can
take a look.
Okay.
We've removed them long ago.
Okay, so right main landing gear pins. That would
That's
be-
this, yep. This is your maintenance pin. So no matter what, with this thing in here, no matter what you do in the cockpit, you're not going to retract the gear, but before you go fly, you got to take these out and put them in the airplane.
Sure.
Now the gear is still pinned,
Right.
but this pin we're going to pull out via the cockpit after takeoff.
So the strut. And this both sides of this.
Yep, and this is your air oleo strut, and you should have about that much space on there.
So kind of about the same as like this, skinnier portion up here.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, it's all the same inside diameter. The strut actually goes all the way up to here.
Right, but I mean the same amount showing here as kind of like this
Yeah.
portion here.
That's it exactly.
Okay, pressure. Where is the
52.
like the fill tube for the tire if you
To
wanted
add
to?
air to the tires.
Yeah, or
Right here.
oh, right there. Okay. What are the tire pressures on these?
52.
52 on all. I mean, like that's what it's. What's the? What's it supposed to be?
Yeah, somewhere around 50. I'd have to.
Okay.
Look it up.
And the tail wheel too. So all three of them
all
are
three
50.
of them are the same. I generally just kind of look at them.
Sure.
But yeah, textbook wise, I'd say it's probably 55. Would be my guess what they're supposed to be.
Okay. So chocks. Leave those for now. Right cowling.
Yeah, just look at the cowl. Make sure the cowl is secure. Nothing hanging off of it. all the obvious stuff you do when you pre-flight your Bonanza, you know, just bird's nest or tools or something else that somebody's.
What is this, like the oil cooler or something?
That's the oil cooler.
Okay.
So air goes in here, cools the oil that flows through this, and on top of this sits a thermostat. And that thermostat decides whether or not it wants to take the oil and send it through the cooler,
Sure.
or straight to the engine.
Okay, right engine front cylinders.
All right, you can see those. That's the front row of 7. They're numbered 1 through 7, starting at the top and working your way around. And, just like any piston arrangement, 2 plugs per cylinder.
And so, is there anything to, well, I guess the right engine case.
Yeah, you can't really see the case other than looking up through here with the flashlight, but you're looking at the back side of the engine. They're just wanting you to look at the whole engine, everything that you can see without pulling off panels and stuff like that. For the job on pre-flight really is anything obvious: fluids leaking, things left in the airplane, and things hanging down that don't look right.
Right propeller and propeller hub.
The propeller hub is that right there. That's where the oil goes from the dome, and it's a full feathering prop, so you want to make sure that there's nothing leaking off of it.
And then right main fuel tank sumps.
All right, now here's your fuel tanks. Looking at it from here, see that square and that square and that square and that square? These are called tank lids. This is your main tank lid.
Okay.
And it's actually structural. See the connecting bolts here?
Sure.
So the weight of the airplane in flight is actually being supported by these belly bands that are holding the airplane, and it's putting stress on these belly bands in flight. Sitting above these belly bands is the tank that's up in here, and this is the lowest point in the main tank right here. So our EPA approved method of checking fuel, we sump some out. If you really wanted to, you'd get traditional.
That's usually what I do.
Some deal. Just, I mean, this thing holds so much gas that I can kind of take a look at the stream and tell you if there's any water in there.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, it smells like gas. It looks like gas.
It's probably
avgas. There can't be that much water. I mean, if there's that much water, you're gonna have a problem either way.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So here's your aft tank lid, and we don't ever sunk the back ones because we never use them. I mean, we do every now and then, but we fly off the main tanks only. So.
Why is it so for takeoff and landing? Did you say it's the mains, or does it? Okay.
Yep.
And why is that? Is it?
Well, plumbing wise, there's no reason you couldn't take off and land off the auxes. It's just in the book it says
Okay.
take off and landing off mains only.
Let's see. Okay, tank sumps. Okay. Radome.
All right, we don't have a radar. This is still called the radome. It's the nose of the airplane, and you can see that flat. There it is. That's where the air goes in. It's closed right now.
Okay, right.
Yep.
Okay.
And then there's 4 knobs up there. The nose of this thing opens up like the hood of a car. Okay, so those will kind of seal and latch.
And what's up there, or what historically was up there?
Well, that's where avionics is.
Okay, and historically, is that where they had them too? Yeah.
Yep.
Did they have radar on these at any point, or it's just?
You know, I think later in military, I think military did put some early radar on these things.
Because that's just aluminum up there. Antennas.
Well, it's got antennas all over the place, but the AEF antenna's been removed because we don't have that. But this is the long wire for the AEF. And
Okay.
Marker beacon here, and then up on top I've got nav and comm antennas and a GPS antenna.
Okay. What's that one?
That's your ADF sense.
Okay.
And it's no longer used either. That's a glide slope receiver right there.
Sure. blowout discs.
All right, your blowout discs are over here. They're kind of hard to see, but they are the two yellow things up there. The only one of any significance to us is that big one right there, the round thing right there.
That's kind of like black and sticking
Yep,
out,
yep.
or on the side here, like
On the
just
side.
a few lines below the window.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
That's your blowout disc for the bottle, and you got to have a charged fire bottle in case you had an engine problem or fire or something. So you want to make sure that there's nothing streaming down that, or the black portion of that inside the circle is the blowout disc. So if, like in the summertime, that bottle ever got like super hot and over pressurized, that's the weakest point. It would burst right there, and that black disc would be gone.
Okay.